Good morning. Welcome to the Week 7 review show. I am your host, Stephen Willis. Thank you very much for tuning in today. We know you don't have to, but what we're trying to do is to keep this about 10 minutes, give you the stories that you need to know for the water cooler so you can talk about what's going on. So, our lead story is in Knoxville, Tennessee, basically, and shameful behavior by the fans completely ruined what was a pretty terrific display by Tennessee, and everything was going on. It was one of those. It was so close to Tennessee being back type moments. It was so close to being what you want, and they just completely throw it away in the last moment. Now the high ground has been given from Tennessee to Lane Kiffin after what happened in 2009. Lane Kiffin now has the high ground. He's taking it. He's genuinely taking it and using it and starting to build his monster that he's building there. The Tennessee defense, kind of surprising. They played really well. They really did. Ole Miss offense is struggling a little bit, but they have backups at all the wide receivers and the backup tight end and a backup left guard. Almost half of the offense was backups for this game, but they were able to do what they have to do because they have Matt Corral, and he's the best player in college football. And yeah, I mean, there's really no way you can go wrong with that. But just an absolutely shameful display. And the SEC needs to do something to ensure that something like this never happens again. Whether it's $1 million fine, whether it's they have to play a home game in an empty stadium, that could be a nice pun. They really need to look honestly at soccer for a way to divvy out a punishment, because what they did, they had to pull Ole Miss into the middle of the field. They stopped the game for like 25, 30 minutes just because of all the debris. Somebody threw a golf ball at Lane Kiffin. Somebody threw some French's mustard. Now, obviously, that's two different sides of the spectrum. But it's just an embarrassing display of what happened last night. When Tennessee got the ball back at the end of the game, I knew they weren't going to score because they didn't. At that point, they didn't deserve to win. Period. And it's absolutely shameful. But hey, Tennessee, look at the bright side. You get Alabama next week, and probably with Joe Milton at quarterback. So have fun with that, and that's going to make me feel a little bit better about what happened last night. Going through the games real quick, San Diego State beat San Jose 19-13. That game went to double overtime. So San Jose State put a scare in them. Oregon slipped by California. The 9th-ranked Ducks slipped by California 24-17. Texas A&M beat Missouri 35-14. In the first quarter, I think Missouri gave up 10 carries for like 150 yards. At one point, Texas A&M was averaging 15 yards per run. It became 21-0. The game was essentially over at that point. Michigan State defeated Indiana 20-15. Got some Sparty news coming up a little bit later in the show. Arkansas, I was concerned about this. And if you watch and listen to the show, I talked about it over and over again, that after the 7 overtime game, Ole Miss genuinely struggled to win. I think Ole Miss lost 3 straight after that or something like that. I was worried if there was any talking back about what happened, Auburn was going to be the main favorite. And whenever you found out that Jalen Catalon wasn't playing, Auburn absolutely became the favorite, ended up winning 38-23. LSU, a 49-42 winner over number 20 Florida, ex-number 20 Florida, in the hot seat bowl. I imagine that Dan Mullen seat is starting to get a little bit warmer as we speak. Ty Davis-Price rushed for like 279 yards, a school record against Florida on essentially one play. They just ran it right and they ran it left, and Florida was not able to stop it the whole game. Oklahoma State, number 12, defeated Texas 32-24. Texas is not back. That's that's what you need to know going into this. Oklahoma State is quietly developing a pretty special team. Now, we'll get to Caleb Williams with Oklahoma. Bedlam could be interesting. Cincinnati takes care of business against UCF, takes them down 56-21. Purdue, Boilermakers. This would have been the picture for our review show and everything going on. Takes down the number 2 Iowa Hawkeyes. When I saw this game scheduled, I just thought is like this looks like a game a Big Ten team loses, even though they're number one or number two in the country. Like Ohio State, back-to-back years dropped games. It kind of looked like that. Georgia just handled business and mashed Kentucky. There's really nobody left on the schedule that can provide any sort of resistance until the SEC championship game. So we'll wait on that. The Baylor Bears beat the BYU Cougars, the number 19 BYU Cougars. Baylor wore one of their Sailor Bear hats. It looked pretty cool. Alabama just absolutely wiped the floor with Mississippi State. Kind of beat up on Will Rogers a little bit. They took him down 49-9. It's a game that you saw what happened last week and wondered if it was going to be able to replicate. No, it wasn't. Mississippi State didn't have the horses, gave up big plays, ended up being 49-9. North Carolina State, 33-7 winners over BC, Boston College. It's interesting. Oklahoma, 52-31 winner over TCU. Caleb Williams has grabbed that job, taken it, and they are pushing Oklahoma forward. So now Bedlam becomes pretty interesting. And of course, I told you, Ole Miss number 13, a 31-26 victor over Tennessee, and they deserved it, to be perfectly honest. The better team won in that game, and nobody's going to want to say, and they're going to find excuses, and they're going to blame officiating, they're going to blame all this stuff. It just is a mask for being disappointed over the fact that you lost the game. The best player on the field was number 2. That can't be overstated. All right, let's look at the playoff rankings this week. This week, leaving Georgia number 1, as we have for most of the year. Cincinnati has moved up to number 2. They are acting like a playoff team. They're one of the 2 teams that have acted like a playoff team all the way through this season, and because of that, they get to be ranked in the top 2. Number 3, Oklahoma, Caleb Williams. Oklahoma is there's a scary vibe developing in Norman at the moment. Alabama moves back in the top 4. Not that they jumped very far out. They made it to number 5 with the win over Mississippi State, and they have some explosive players. Can you imagine how good Ohio State would be with Jamison Williams? Absolutely nuts. Number 5, I'm going with Sparty this week. I like Kenneth Walker. I like their offense. They play on the 30th. The next game is against Michigan, and that's a 6-0 Michigan team. Michigan's going to play this week. And a 7-0 Michigan State team. That's going to be pretty interesting. The winner of that game will be in here the week after that. And number 6, I'm going with Oklahoma State right now. They're undefeated. They're winning ranked games. They're just on a cruise control path to playing Ole Miss in the Sugar Bowl, basically. But they might make it in the playoff. Bedlam looks really interesting now with Caleb Williams calling the shots and doing what he wants to do, and what's going on there. So this is all really interesting and ready to go. I want to see what happens. I think we are about 2 weeks until the first playoff rankings. So we'll get to see how, since we've been doing this since the beginning, how our rankings match up with theirs whenever they come out. So that'll be pretty interesting. Of course, we won't do a who's in poll. We will, as soon as they announce it, we will start using theirs. So, or who we think theirs is going to be. So it'll be based off of that instead of based off of the previous week's poll. But anyway, thanks for tuning in. This has been a 10-minute look of the college weekend at a whole. All the stories that you need to know. I'm Stephen Willis. Thank you very much for listening. And of course, hotty toddy.